All right, welcome everybody. We just started the broadcast online, so welcome to the folks who are on GoToWebinar. I just wanted to do a brief welcome, but did you want to do introductions? I'll just go. Okay, straight through. So then, my name's Thomas Economon for those online, and on behalf of the rest of the foundation board, I want to say welcome to our third SU2 conference. We've got a lovely location, which we'll talk about in a second. But my job here in this first talk, as usual, like I've been doing over the last however many years, is to get everybody excited to be here, talk a little bit about what's to come, and also look back a little bit. So it's always a lot of fun to look back at the last few years. Some of you will recognize a few of these slides. You might be getting tired of it. It's a little repetitive, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So let's get into it. Here we go. So about 3 years ago, we decided to change over from what we had been calling a developers meeting to a conference. So we've been meeting now since 2016 as a group. A lot of you, I recognize a lot of the faces that have been there since the beginning, and also some new faces, which is a lot of fun. So we've been meeting since 2016 as a developers group. That was at Delft, and then also 2017 in Stanford, Strathclyde, here at Villa Monastero in 2019. So that's the picture in the bottom right. Beautiful location. So I'll say something about that in a moment. But then, as you all know, we've been unfortunately stuck at home for the last couple of years dealing with the pandemic. But we did manage to have what I thought were really wonderful virtual meetings in both 2020 and 21. So a lot of participants, great talks, and good engagement, even though we had to do it electronically. So it's very, very good to be back in person and see you all here. In fact, our last in-person meeting was at the same location here in Verena. So I want to take a moment to thank our local organizers, Alberto, Luca, Andrea, who have just put in a ton of work to get us set up here. It's really one of a kind location. So thank you guys for doing that work. Yeah, can't wait to have this meeting here the rest of the week. It's a little bit of a lag. There we go. So what I normally start with is a little bit of motivation about the project and what it's been all about. About 10 years ago now, we put the first version of SU2 out to the community with the idea that we would essentially make it easy for people to collaborate together. We would stop having PhD students reinvent the wheel, something we just talked about last night over dinner. We could have a shared infrastructure and really get everybody involved in working on it together. And I do think that's been one of the strengths of the project, and it's been a great way to collaborate with each other and for PhD students and researchers to get a leg up and not have to all write their own codes. So this is a screenshot I grabbed from way back when in October 2012, and I wanted to take a moment today to just reflect on the fact that it's been 10 years since we launched the SU2 project. So here's a snapshot of what the website looks like today, a little bit different, but in 2022, still going strong. So it's been really a whole lot of fun, a labor of love over the last 10 years, and I'm very pleased to see it keep going. So it's worth celebrating. So as usual, let's look at the timeline. So I've highlighted that on here on the far right, our 10-year anniversary. But you can see those meetings that I already mentioned in 16 onward. We also have highlighted here the different major versions of the code that have been released. This timeline keeps getting scrunched tighter and tighter, and I keep having to take things off. I can only fit so many things. We used to have more, highlights about different features and papers and collaborations and whatnot, but our history is getting long, which is good. So a couple other things to highlight on this slide. As you all know, we formed the SU2 Foundation in May of 2019, and that continues on in the background. We'll talk about that a little bit at the end of the presentation. And we're going to have some good discussion here this week now that we're back in person about how the foundation can continue to support the project going forward. And so here we are today. So this is our third conference. Now, I like to spend a little bit of time hitting you guys with the numbers so that everybody knows how active the community is and what people have been up to. So here's a snapshot from Google Analytics of web traffic to our project page over about the last year. The emphasis here is just that the project is truly international. We have folks from everywhere around the world accessing the website and using the code. And interestingly, this year, if you want to call them power rankings, I don't know what you want to call this, moved around a little bit. So the top accessor of the site is now China, which previously last year, the US had led the way. But you see from there on down, it's a very international bunch that are accessing the website. A lot of traffic, which is great to see. And then let's move on to talk about development a little bit. So this is a snapshot of commits to the repository since 2014. And I always like to sort of track this to see how active folks are. So you can see we continue being quite active all the way through the last year, similar to the previous years. A lot of folks committing code to the repository. So highlighting a few other numbers just to give you a feel. We're sitting at about 160,000 lines of C++ code. In the last year, we have had 158 pull requests, so folks have submitted 158 contributions. Just in the last couple weeks, 2,000 people have checked out the repository, they've cloned it. That number actually went up quite a bit recently, and that may just be, we had a release not too long ago, so maybe there were extra clones, but there are a lot of branches in the repository. That's how folks collaborate. We have a lot of feature branches people are working on. Over 2,000 commits to the master branch since last time around. We were on release 7.1.1 at the last meeting. Now we're on 7.4, and that has about 2,600 commits in it. And then there are close to 700 forks on GitHub. So these are folks who've gone to the trouble to actually click fork on the repository and start working on it in GitHub, and that's a good sign as well that there's a lot of activity. So. The other thing I like to highlight is how we're doing in terms of lines of code, and a trend we've been seeing the last few years, which continues on in these slides, is actually lines of code coming down a little bit, and at least lines of code per file coming way down. So if I just go ahead and animate this all the way. Right around version 7, there's been a concerted effort by the developers to try to add more features without necessarily adding a lot of lines of code. So you don't need lines of code to add good features. So that's something the development team's been working hard on, I know, and you can see that play out the same as it has been for the last few releases. So this year, there's it turns out lines of code is almost flat, maybe a tiny increase since 7.1.1 at our last meeting to 7.4 now. But we continue to decrease the number of lines per file, which I think is useful. Okay, I had tried to collect some highlights, and I asked some of the developers for feedback. So I just wanted to give some shout outs to people because really the community, the developers are what makes it all tick. And so just some highlights. I know I'm missing a lot of things here, but some of the stuff you'll see at the meeting is also captured on this slide. So there have been a lot of work on V&V cases, old cases by Niso and Pedro, regression test coverage by Guillermo and Wally, building and running regressions on new architectures. This is something that Martin had helped with. Lots of Nemo work. I'm very pleased to see Jacob here and Wally, of course, working on lots of features there. Mixture models, we're going to see some work about this. So Toby, Christopher, Niso. There have been some things about just general usability and output. So Niso, your name's coming up a lot. You're there too as well with Pedro. Similar cast of characters here for performance and robustness. A lot of work on improving the turbulence model framework and trying to standardize things over the last year between SA and SST, as well as some new optimization work that's captured there as well. So just wanted to say thank you all for what you do. Again, the developers really make the code tick. So a lot of great contributions and keep it up. You can of course go to the website and see all the pull requests anytime you guys want. So, and as I said, many of these things are going to be talked about, so keep an eye out for them. All right, a brief comment about the foundation. So as you guys know, a few years ago, we formed the SU2 Foundation to help, shepherd the code and make sure that we have sort of management in place of various things, and we can keep the project running as long as we'd like, hopefully forever. So to care about longevity. And we're going to talk later this week on Wednesday. Some of us are going to get together and we're going to talk about strategies and plans going forward for the foundation. But in the background, we're always working away to focus on management and coordination of sort of the project, organizing meetings like this. We'll continue to do that. But we're also working hard to accomplish things like fundraise, grow a staff eventually one day, education, training, and support programs. We're talking about all these things, and we'll need your input. So please bring your ideas on Wednesday, and we'll look forward to talking about it. And I do want to, again, of course, always thank our generous sponsors. Some of you guys are in the room. In particular, I wanted to shout out that Cadence, the folks from Cadence, will be giving a talk tomorrow, and Travis and Eric will be presenting that. So it's we can't continue on without your support. So thank you all. All right, I want to speed up a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about logistics. So the meeting agenda is, we're going to keep everything on the event page at any time. So we're going to keep that up to date. So always go there if you want to know, changes to the talks or when the breaks are scheduled, lunch is scheduled, dinner is scheduled, etc. So that's your go-to spot. Now that we are in person, we've changed the format a little bit from the virtual meeting. So you guys have probably already seen the agenda, but we've got 2 days of talks lined up. 4 sessions per day. So the sessions are 3 or 4 talk chunks, and then we have breaks in between. So there'll be a coffee break in the morning, lunch, and then a coffee break in the afternoon. Both of the days end with an open-ended discussion, just as needed. If people have spillover of questions or people want to have other discussion or comments, that's most welcome. So we've got a block open at the end of the day. For folks on the virtual meeting, go ahead and leave questions in the GoToWebinar chat, and we will get to those at the end. The idea would be they're 20-minute talk slots. So just as a reminder, aim for 15. I know as I say this, I'm already like over my 15. Aim for 15 minutes so we can have 4 minutes Q&A and then a minute to transition the slides. Okay. Alberto, do you want to add anything about the villa?
2 minutes before the end, the bell will ring. So that,
yeah.
I just want to thank everyone for coming here to Italy and to Varenna. Beautiful city that I encourage you to explore, and we will do some this evening already. We are in Villa Monastero, which is a museum. This used to be a church, because Monastero is monastery in Italian, and then it was bought by a wealthy family, transformed into a villa, and it was then bought by the National Research Council of Italy. It was used the way we are using it today, and it's still used this way to this day. This is the Fermi room, because Enrico Fermi, the Nobel laureate, used to give talk and lecture in this very same room to his fellow scientists. So welcome. Being a museum, you will see a lot of visitors. Unfortunately, they're not. I guess they're not very interested in SU2, but they will wander around. So don't be afraid of joining them in the visit. You can visit any part of the villa. Some of you are sleeping there, so you know this already. The nice part is this way, and then there is a botanical garden again in this direction that is worth visiting. Being a museum, if you don't want to pay the entrance ticket, you should always wear this badge in the villa, and lunches and coffee breaks are served in the tent. There is a white tent just outside this room, and I think that's all on my side. About just have a technical question about dinner tonight. Is anyone not joining dinner? Everyone? Okay, but anyway, everyone in this room will join for dinner. Okay, good. So welcome again, and thank you for coming. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Alberto. Thanks again for organizing. Let's see, I did have one more quick slide. Well, maybe one more quick slide. Whoops. So again, this year, this worked really well last year and something we wanted to bring back. So awards. We have 2 awards. The first award is award for the community. So the idea is we want to recognize the person making the most outstanding contribution to the project during the past year, and it's by peer nomination. So Professor Matteo Pini has kindly offered to be our awards chair this year. So thank you, Matteo. For this first award, you can just email Matteo with your nomination. Just these instructions will be on the website, by the way, so you don't have to frantically write this down. I'll post it there. Just send Matteo your nomination. Congrats again to Pedro, who won this last year. And the second award is best presentation, and this is based on the talks we have here at the conference. And similarly, there is a Google survey that's linked here. We'll have it on the website where you can go at the end and just, rank all the papers, and the awards chair will take care to come back to us with the winners. And congrats, Harsh is here. So our 21 winner. This was, I think, very nice to have last time, and we want to keep recognizing people. So look forward to your submissions, please, and I'll put these instructions on the web. So otherwise, you guys know this stuff, but I'm going to leave this up for a minute while we transition. If you want to get involved, go to the GitHub page, of course. It's where you find the code. Weekly developer meetings open to anyone. We've been alternating Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That might go back to only Wednesdays, but please join. We have Slack and also email. So please get involved. That's all I can ask for. So welcome.